Team building is a critical skill in Pokemon competitive VGC as it allows for 3 different things. First off, it allows you to recognize enemy team synergies faster during team selection so you can bring the right Pokemon in lead and in back. Secondly, it helps you build strong teams that can give you an experience advantage when you're in battle against an opponent that has never seen your strategy before, but you're intimately familiar with theirs. And third, and most importantly, I would say it allows for you to target metagame weaknesses and bring some of the strongest possible teams into tournaments as a meta call that can potentially sweep that tournament and redefine the meta. If you're new to the channel, I'm Tunasi, and I'm an engineer in my day job that really loves building Pokemon VGC competitive teams. So if you like unique Pokemon VGC competitive builds, then sit back, relax, because you're in the right place here. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through the process that I use to team build with the hope that sharing my process gleans some useful information to you out there, and you can also give me feedback so we as a community can increase our team building expertise and see a little bit more team variety out there in the meta than just fire lizards all the time. Let me know if you like this style of video, and quick disclaimer before we keep going. I in no way consider myself a authority on team building in Pokemon VGC. I just really enjoy the creative process of team building and wanted to share that with you. Because I built this process from scratch on my own, I didn't really rely on any external influences. I figured it might give a unique perspective to some people out there looking for videos on how to get better at building competitive teams. Let's jump into the high-level breakdown of the process. The first step is identifying the niche you want to build your team around. This step is basically where you're identifying the core strategy you want your team to work around. I like to think of it as a way to place a bet either against or for the meta. Next is step 2, identifying your core's biggest threats and its greatest allies. This step should be fairly straightforward so long as you have a tier list that you've created, and if you don't, check the description because I've got a link to a video where I walk through my tier list for Regulation MB and give a detailed description for each Pokemon and why it's placed where it is. You can use your tier list to go back and look at some of the upper tier Pokemon that might be specifically threatening to your core or that will help your core flourish against other threats. Step 3 is adding Pokemon to your team that match up well with your core in terms of synergy, strategically, stat advantages, or even type or matchup coverage. Step 4 is primarily based around gameplay, where you're getting experience with the team and identifying really strong leads or combinations for the team into certain matchups. To me, this can be on ladder, or if you're trying to protect a high elo, this can be on casual games. Step 5, you can do one of 2 options. You can either continue to refine the team based off of the information you glean by the games you played previously in step 4, or you can choose to pull the kill switch and just go back to step 1 with a completely new niche or core idea. Step 6 is pressure testing the team. You want to take the team into a high stakes environment similar to what environment you plan to use the team in. By that, I mean you can either bring your team into a tournament, whether it be online or in person, where its best place to practice is best of 3 open team sheet ladder on Pokemon Showdown, or if you're just looking to see how strong the team is on ladder, you can just practice directly on the ladder, as that's the best practice environment, since achieving a high elo on the ladder is going to require a high volume of games to achieve. The fun part of step 7 is that it's actually step 5 all over again, and that this whole thing just becomes a loop. So without further ado, let's talk about the team idea over here. So I think Gorgeist alongside Tyranitar with Trick or Treat, which adds the Ghost typing. So Tyranitar becomes Rock, Dark, and Ghost. So it takes its 4 times here, right? We have a Rock and Dark type, and we have a Grass and Ghost type. So our 4-time fighting weakness goes to an immunity. And in return, our dark type resistance becomes, a non-resistance, becomes normal time damage. And also our ghost resist, also non-resisted attack. All in exchange for removing our 4 times fighting weakness. which I think is awesome. Also, Gorgeist has some fun moves in Trick Room, so we can speed control a little bit here. And they also have Ally Switch, which I think is actually going to be pretty important to this build here. I don't think we want to be Focus Sash with this set. I think we want to be like probably Aqua Berry or something for Sun. We could have other leads for Sun, either or Culver Berry. Looks interesting. I think we want to go as bulky as possible. Let's go min speed. Let's go max special defense, honestly. So we can go up to 139. Let's just hit the bump. 132 here. And the rest we put in defense. 151 is an awkward number. 192 is a really good number, except for Sand Chip. So we should be 91 actually. This brings us to 152, which I like. Okay. Yeah. And then attack is 120, which is fine with Poltergeist. Does a lot of damage. The super effective damage. I mean, yeah. I think the point here is we want Gorgeist to be able to take hits to support Tyranitar, and I really thought Tyranitar got Sword Stance, and that would make it a monster. I know it gets Dragon Dance, and I know it gets Curse, and Curse was my original idea with Trick Room, so you get obviously slower in Trick Room. I'm missing some stats here. Yeah, that's fine. However, when you Trick or Treat Tyranitar, the Curse does half of its health and puts the Ghost type Curse onto an opponent randomly. So it's kind of a counter synergy. I can't see that being super useful, but maybe it is like a really super clutch play we could make. But my idea is also we bring Gorgeist in the back most of the time, or we're protecting and ally switching. We could ally switch Curse. And then, well, so anyway, the other part of this idea is I've already seen a Gorgeist team using ally switch with the move Healing Wish. So Healing Wish is super interesting in how it works. You can Healing Wish, right? And if you swap in, and Lopunny's probably amazing on this team. I'm gonna do Fake Out, Close Combat, Healing Wish, Encore, max speed for sure. Probably something like this, maybe. I don't know. So you Healing Wish, and then you obviously you faint with Lopunny or whoever. Another good Healing Wish mon on this team could be Clefable. Probably Unaware. Maybe Citrus. Moonblast, Follow Me. Healing Wish, obviously. Skill Swap's really interesting, actually. Getting Unaware onto a Tyranitar. Life Dew's good. Helping Hand's good. Heal Pulse is really good. It's probably just better than Healing Wish, but I think they also get Ally Switch, right? You get so many. Healing Wish. Anyway, we're probably going to go with Lopunny here and go Dual Mega, because either of these Pokemon with the Trick or Treat kind of become insane. Some anti-Trick Room synergies here, but you could start with Lopunny, Gorgeist, Fake Out, go Trick Room, or go Trick or Treat into Lopunny. Now that we have our core idea, it's time to identify threats and allies to our core Pokemon. I actually found that just trying to imagine what threats and allies a certain core mechanic has gets overwhelming with how many different Pokemon can be available depending on the regulation. So I instead narrow it down using my tier list and looking only at those top tier Pokemon that I'm more likely to see when I'm actually fighting different opponents on the ladder or in tournament. Let's pop that up and start pulling out the biggest threats and allies we see to our core mechanic and go from there. When looking at my tier list, I always start at the top and work our way back down from there, and how far you go down, checking what Pokemon might be good or bad against your team, really just impacts how much time it takes to develop and design that team. So if you want to go all the way to your D tier Pokemon and really evaluate how strong they are on or against your team, you can, and that will make your team a little bit stronger for it, but at the cost of a lot more time spent building your team and optimizing it around a lot of scenarios you're not likely to run into. I personally stop at the B tier and don't go into C when I'm evaluating my tier list and looking at potential threats into my Pokemon core mechanic. Ideally, if I've done my tier list right, I should be only really seeing these Pokemon as top contenders on the ladder, and if I have for some reason placed S tier Pokemon way lower than they should be or vice versa, then it's on me to update my tier list and make sure that it's still operating under the latest meta circumstances. So now that we've got our tier list up here, we can really start going through and saying how concerning are each individual Pokemon at the highest tiers to our core mechanic. So for example, our mechanic is Tyranitar plus Trick or Treat will allow it to sweep against fighting types, removing its 4x weakness. We chose this niche because we thought it was strong into Charizard, which I have placed at the top of S tier. Because Charizard is already known not to be a threat to our team because we think Tyranitar's got a strong matchup into it, we're not going to list it as a threat or an ally into Tyranitar because I don't think it's a good partner for Tyranitar. They both want to Mega to control the weather, and overall, they don't have good synergy. Next up, we have Garchomp. And Garchomp is quite threatening into Tyranitar. Earthquake does quite a bit of damage, and with Life Orb, if you don't invest in bulk in your Tyranitar, you can get one shot. So, okay, we think Garchomp is a threat to Tyranitar. However, it can't do much into Gourgeist, but it's also able to go around ally switch from Gourgeist and hit Tyranitar no matter what Gourgeist does. So, it's still a threat, I would say, into Tyranitar and deserves a place in our now threats box for Tar Trick or Treat. So let's add Garchomp, and we won't add any details to this for now. We just want to conceptually include Garchomp as a threat. Now let's go back to our tier list, looking at Whimsicott. Whimsicott actually isn't that much of a threat to our team. It can't really Rage Powder away anything from Gourgeist, and with the Dark typing on Tyranitar, it's immune to its Prankster, Encore, or other potential, fake tiers threats. So we're going to skip Whimsicott as a threat. And as an ally, let's think about Whimsicott. It brings us Tailwind support with Tyranitar we can make good advantage or take good advantage of. However, we already have a grass type on the team in Gourgeist, and I don't know that I'm ready to double down on grass types quite yet. To me, Whimsicott doesn't scream as an obvious synergistic ally to the core mechanic of T-Tar and Gourgeist. Next up, we have Mega Floette, and Mega Floette immediately is a threat to to Tyranitar. So you want to add it here second, and we'll add the Mega version just to be clear. Nobody's really running standard Floette anyway, so everybody's going to know it's the Mega that's very threatening. As an ally, I don't think that I see Floette synergizing specifically well with Tyranitar. It will be chipped by its Sandstream ability. If you're Mega-ing Floette, you're not Mega-ing Tyranitar. However, I do see a synergy with Floette where it has a bad matchup into Charizard, where Tyranitar has a great matchup into Charizard. So you can potentially bring Tyranitar into enemy Charizard teams. I don't know how strong of a synergy that is, but we'll put it in. We'll put it in as a potential ally. I do think that's a strong enough synergy to qualify to consider in the future when we look back on this. Next up, we have Basculete Legion. So Basque Legion's ghost typing inherently has good synergy with Tyranitar. As a switch-in, you want to be able to switch in ghost typing into fighting type damage that Tyranitar has. It's also got good synergy with Trick or Treat from Gorgeist, especially if we wanted to run a faster Gorgeist set that could potentially outspeed Basque Legion, Trick or Treat an enemy before Last Respects goes off. There's almost nothing that's going to survive super effective Last Respects from Basque Legion, especially after it's built up a few stacks, or it's holding a life orb or a spell tag boosting item. I will put Basque Legion in as a potential ally based on all those synergies. However, I wouldn't consider it as a direct threat to Tyranitar. It can hit Tyranitar and it can one-shot Tyranitar, so maybe I will include it here as well. And I have been one-shot by Wave Crash on Basque Legion, especially with the Life Orb or with the Mystic Water sets. It's very scary with adaptability. Let's add adaptability there. So yeah, it's a threat and an ally, and you'll see that again with Floette. That's totally possible that a Pokemon that's synergistic with your team can also be very threatening into your team. Okay, next up, we have Mega Metagross. I don't think that's a particular threat into the team or a good ally. Again, we don't necessarily want to spread our Megas too thin, knowing that we're already bringing Mega Tyranitar. The Steel typing does synergize with Sand. It won't take Sand Chip, and it does cover for a bad matchup in Floette. And Metagross has a bad matchup against Charizard, so I could see synergy there. So I will throw that into a potential ally. So let's go Metagross. And as a threat, I don't consider Metagross a threat, even though the Iron Heads can hurt the Tyranitar. It's very rarely not in my experience, it's not been enough to actually one-shot Tyranitar. And we can one-shot it back often with a knockoff onto Metagross, and we can just knock off it over and over, since you cannot actually remove any of the Mega Evolution items, held items. Next up, we have Mega Aerodactyl, and this could be a threat into the team. Technically, Tyranitar resists the flying type, like dual wing beat attack that Mega Aerodactyl would run. However, it doesn't resist rock slide damage, and it can flinch, since Aerodactyl is often going to be moving faster than Tyranitar. And Gorgeist is weak to those dual wing beat moves from Mega Aerodactyl, and it's very rarely going to survive it with the Tough Claws boost from Aerodactyl. So overall, it can be very threatening into the team. I think it's fair to consider it a threat, so let's add it in. Let's go in here. And I just realized my head is kind of in the way, but kind of not. Actually, you guys can see most of this, hopefully. Okay, so we think Aerodactyl is a threat. Let's jump back. Do we think it's a good ally? Actually, I've thought about it before, and I do think Aerodactyl synergizes well with Tyranitar. However, shared rock typing means potentially shared weaknesses, but when you really think about Aerodactyl, Tyranitar's and Aerodactyl do not share a lot of weaknesses. Fighting is 4 times weakness for Tyranitar, but it's a standard neutral damage to Mega Aerodactyl and Aerodactyl. Also, ground is super effective into Tyranitar, immune from Aerodactyl. Water is a shared weakness. Grass is not a shared weakness. Ice, I don't believe, is a shared weakness by Tyranitar. So it's actually a little bit different, but both benefit by the rock typing special defense boost in the sand. So I am going to say that Aerodactyl's a potential ally, and a Nerve's very good. We could potentially do fighting type damage into King Gambit, which can be a threat with Chople Berry and low kick sets into Tyranitar. Next up, we have Swampert. I have thought about Swampert before. Its ground typing does make it a potential ally with the Sand Stream from Tyranitar, since it doesn't care about the Sand Chip. It can be an amazing way to provide speed control to Swampert, whereas if you're running Tyranitar and Swampert, you often want to run a trick a Trick Room mode because they're both potentially slow Pokemon. However, you can run Swampert in a rain/sand team with Tyranitar and turn on the sand when you want to go slow in Trick Room, turn on the rain when you want to go fast with Swift Swim. Overall, I've never tried it, and there is the counter synergy where Mega Swampert really requires, I think, its Mega Stone to be functional. It doesn't really want to come to a game and not Mega, whereas Tyranitar can come to a game and not Mega, but often, again, we're betting on Tyranitar being really good against Charizard, and Swampert doesn't particularly have a bad win rate to synergize with Tyranitar against Charizard. You typically want to run Rain to counter Sun already, which we could consider doubling down and doubling counter of weather control against Sun. However, I don't think the synergies are that strong to list it as an ally, and as a threat, I actually do think it is potentially threatening into Tyranitar, with Earthquake being such a powerful move into Tyranitar, as well as Wave Crash being very powerful into Tyranitar, so I will include it as a threat. This is allies, so let's go over to threats, and let's add in Swampert. Specifically, Mega Swampert can outspeed. Okay. Delphox. We have a fantastic matchup into Delphox. We almost hard wall it. We can't be hit really by the Heat Wave from Delphox, and we are immune to its Psychic type moves with Tyranitar. We are not immune to its Heat Wave with Gourgeist, but Gourgeist does typically run, and we probably will run, a Poltergeist or Ghost type move, which is good into Delphox, so we could potentially consider an Occa Berry set for Gourgeist, which gives it a better matchup into both Charizard and now Delphox, so something to consider. Overall, I don't think it is a threat, and I don't see it being an ally. However, it could synergize well with Garchomp if we wanted to add Garchomp to the team, since it does very well. Okay, so going back to the tier list, Delphox, I don't think it synergizes well enough to consider it as an ally, other than its synergy with Garchomp, which can be good. As far as matchup coverage, T-Tar doesn't really like going into Floette or Sylveon teams. Delphox can do well into those teams, but I don't think it's as good a coverage as like maybe a Steel type would be, and we definitely want a Steel type on a Sand team, so I'm going to pass on Delphox. However, looking at King Gambit now next, it can be a threat. Let's start with that. With its low kick set, it can one-shot our Tyranitar. It certainly has enough attack to do that. And to live a low kick from a King Gambit with Tyranitar requires almost full HP and defense investment, which we could consider doing on a Dragon Dance or Curse set. However, I like to defend against King Gambit with fighting type damage myself. So depending on how we end up building the team, either adding a fighting type or adding low kick to King Gambit can be very good. As mentioned about Aerodactyl, right, with a Nerve, we can usually low kick before King Gambit can with Tyranitar and kill it in one shot. Or if we don't want to commit low kick to a move slot on Tyranitar, we can instead then just run Curse or Dragon Dance instead in that slot, and then just run a fighting type Pokemon that can take care of enemy King Gambits for us. I personally think King Gambit has amazing synergy as an ally with the team, and normally when I would think about King Gambit on Sand teams is I don't include Gambit, even though it's got Steel typing, which is fantastic for Sand teams, gives it the immunity to the Sandstorm damage. I've always skipped King Gambit because it shares Dark typing with Tyranitar. However, on this specific team, our strategy is to use Trick or Treat to get rid of 4 times fighting weaknesses on Tyranitar. We also have a 4 times fighting weakness on King Gambit. Also, synergies with Trick or Treat we haven't talked about yet, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, later. is that we can trick or treat before we're doing a strong dark type move in King Gambit or Tyranitar, giving an enemy Pokemon ghost typing, making it super effective, or 4 times weak into dark type damage coming from Tyranitar or King Gambit. So I think King Gambit has amazing synergy with the team, and putting Ghost type on King Gambit removes its 4 times fighting weakness. It shares that ability to super effectively hit anything with Trick or Treat, and it can be a situation where if you see enemy Charizards, you know you're not wanting to bring King Gambit, you bring Tyranitar, and that's your now Ghost synergy super effective dark type attacker. If you see the enemy opponent doesn't have a Charizard and instead it has something that Tyranitar doesn't want to see, like Sylveon or Floette, now we can bring our King Gambit. I think it's a really good pair, and I'm going to include it as an ally. Let's add King Gambit. Perfect. Sneasler. I don't think Sneasler has good synergy with Tyranitar. Sneasler often wants to stay healthy and be kind of ambiguous whether or not it's running the Focus Sash or the White Herb. A lot of sets recently are running Poison Touch with the Focus Sash. So I don't think Sandchip synergizes well with Sneasler. When we think about what's Tyranitar's weak into, it is Sneasler. Fighting types, Sneasler can't really hit Sneasler with Dire Claw or with close combat. So yeah, as a threat, it certainly is a threat. It is a major threat, and I think we should treat it as such. Let's add it in here. Sneasler. Right now, I think this is our #1 threat, even above Garchomp. Close combat, there's no way we can live it from a Sneasler on our King Gambit. However, Gorgeist does patch up that matchup a little bit for sure, right? Ally Switch goes after Fake Out, so we have to keep that in mind, but we can always Trick or Treat our Tyranitar. I am excited to find out if Trick or Treat goes through Protect or not, like Coaching. I doubt it does. Coaching is a sound-based move, and it seems like certain sound-based moves go through Side Protect for some reason. Jumping back into it, Archaladon. Archaladon is a very interesting potential Pokemon into and in support of Tyranitar. So as a threat, maybe I can go over here. I think this is best. So Archaladon has a lot of synergies with Tyranitar, right? Steel typing is very good with sand, avoiding the sand chip. One of Archaladon's major weaknesses, and one of only a few weaknesses, is fighting damage, and you can remove that weakness with ghost typing and make it an immunity instead, which can be very table turning. However, just bear in mind, if you're using Trick or Treat on Archaladon specifically, you are giving it weaknesses to dark and ghost type damage in exchange for that immunity to fighting and normal. So sometimes that can be good, sometimes that can be bad. If the enemy has like a King Gambit or an enemy Tyranitar, a big dark type or ghost Goldengo type attacker, you probably don't want to be adding ghost type to your own Pokemon. So as an ally, I think it's worth considering. I don't think it's as strong for sure as some of the other allies, such as King Gambit. I think we should move King Gambit actually to the top here. And then we can add Archaladon to the bottom. And it brings a potential fun team idea of rain with sand, and that can really shut down Charizard. So yeah, if you really want to target Charizard, you can do that. And I don't think that's a bad idea. As a threat, yeah, like I said, they can Flash Cannon Tyranitar. However, with the sand being up, typically Tyranitar doesn't. It can take a Flash Cannon fairly well. Often it doesn't deal half damage, even though it's super effective damage. So it's just not that concerning to run into an enemy Archaladon. Okay, Frostlass. Now, that can be a pretty scary matchup. However, I think Frostlass is actually one of the best matchups for Tyranitar. We have Rock Slide, which does super effective damage. We have Knockoff, which does super effective damage. We have the slower terrain set after Mega Evolving, so we're almost always in sand against enemy Frostlass. I think, in my experience, most players don't even bring Frostlass into Tyranitar unless it's like a Destiny Bond set or something like that. So yeah, not a threat. As far as an ally, I don't think we really want another Mega Evolving Weather Setter. I think that niche is filled by Tyranitar quite well. Yeah, so moving on. Tyranitar is on the team. Sylveon. Sylveon, I think, is similar to Floette in every aspect. It's a really strong fairy type attacking. It's a threat, but it's also... Oh, not Floette. Sylveon. It's both a threat and a potential ally for the team. Sylveon. Pixelate, Fairy Feather, or now Life Orb is really scary for Tyranitar. Even with the 1.5 special defense boost, it still outputs similar damage to Floette and can just overwhelm the Sandstorm boost to special defenses that Tyranitar gets. However, Knockoff can be quite good, and if you can knock off before the enemy Sylveon can move, you can limit the damage by getting rid of a Fairy Feather or a Life Orb or a Citrus Berry, which can be quite annoying on Sylveon. Incineroar, the GOAT. Incineroar is pretty good with Tyranitar. I mean, it doesn't love the Sand Chip. However, it is still Incineroar. If you're running a setup set on your Tyranitar, Fake Out from Incineroar can be very good, followed by Parting Shot. Fire damage can be good into Charizard. However, again, we already have that matchup fairly positive with Tyranitar. If you wanted to increase your matchup, you certainly could add Incineroar. And as a threat, it certainly is. We are weak into Intimidate users, and Incineroar is the king Intimidate user. And we can't really hit it very hard. We can Rock Slide, which can be annoying for the Incineroar, doing, chunk often up to half potentially damage. But often your Citrus Berry and just heals back. So you're requiring at least 2 to 3 Rock Slides to take down Incineroar. So yeah, it can be a problem for sure. And especially if it's got an Intimidate off, Incineroar is certainly surviving many Rock Slides. And it's not a great situation to be in. So we should consider it as a threat. Next up, we have Pelipper. So if you look at Pelipper, and if we look at it in threats, let's throw it in. I think it's probably worth considering as a threat. Its speed is base 65, whereas T-Tar, which we should add here just for reference. Mega T-Tar, let's move you here. 71. So if you're not running a very fast Tyranitar, there's a good chance that the Pelipper is outspeeding you. Because usually Pelipper wants to run Sash or wants Choice Scarf. However, you can run into Citrus Berry sets that are running very bulky, even maybe Life Orb that could be running bulky slow sets. So Pelipper having 65 base speed is less than Mega Tyranitar. So when Mega Evolving, you're always going to be setting the rain before or after switching, so you're good there. However, if we look at Tyranitar before we Mega Evolve, we are slower always than Pelipper. So before Mega Evolving, if we're running a slow Tyranitar, we're always going to set the sand. And then when Mega Evolving, we're always going to set the sand because Pelipper's not competing in the Mega Evolving space because it doesn't have a Mega Evolution. I actually think I retract what I was saying earlier. I don't consider Pelipper a bad matchup. I'm going to take it out of the threats. Flying type damage is nothing into Tyranitar. Tyranitar has Rock Slide for it. It can run Wide Guard. I actually am going to undo my delete specifically because it does have the ability to switch in, reset weather, and it does learn Wide Guard, which can be extremely disruptive because we're just typically running Rock Slide and Knockoff. So you have to knock off the Pelipper before you can Rock Slide the, enemy. I don't know, you're not running Charizard with Pelipper, but Wide Guard can be very disruptive. So I think we should consider that as a low tier threat. After Pelipper, we have Gengar. Gengar is an incredible matchup for Tyranitar. Gengar does not want to be taking knockoffs from our Tyranitar. And the Sand Chip is also very good into their stall kind of based tactics. Yeah, Incineroar with Gengar can be disruptive for sure. However, I recommend if you have a Gengar as a enemy Mega, just swap in Tyranitar not on lead, so you avoid the Intimidate damage, and then you can throw it in once the Shadow Tags are turned on by the enemy Gengar and go from there. As an ally, I don't think Shadow Tag's that useful with standard Tyranitar. It also doesn't want to be taking the chip from Tyranitar. I don't see any obvious synergies other than it's good into Floette, which is a potentially bad matchup, and Sylveon into Tyranitar. But I wouldn't say it's enough synergies to classify it as an ally for me. Mega Blastoise. Mega Blastoise is definitely a threat with its Shell Smash, Wave Crash, or Water Spout sets. So I'll add it in here. It's probably similar to Mega Swampert in terms of damage, potential threat level, I would say. And I would say Aerodactyl can probably move down below. But our matchup with Gourgeist is decent. We're not able to threaten super effective damage because we don't typically run like Power Whip or Seed Bomb type of physical grass damage from a physically attacking Gourgeist. However, there's always sets where you could consider running Leech Seed, you could consider running Giga Drain or something, Solar Beam, probably not on a sand team, something like that as a grass type move. Into the Mega Blastoise. So overall, I would say Blastoise is a threat. I think we've got it classified well. I wouldn't say it's an ally. Again, if you're bringing Blastoise, you really are relying on Mega-ing Blastoise, I would typically think, unless you're running some White Herb set potentially, but I don't think that's very viable and something we need to worry about, so we will move on to Mega Staraptor. Mega Staraptor is a huge threat. It's a bigger threat than I would say Sneasler is. Let's choose that. Let's move you up here. Its fighting flying type gives it a resistance to our rock type damage, and it is fighting typing, which is our main weakness in Tyranitar. Unfortunately, even with being able to put the ghost typing on Tyranitar with Gourgeist, it's too slow. It can get in a super effective fighting type move before Gourgeist can typically move, unless you're running the fastest Gourgeist. But even then, Staraptor's almost running max speed at 110 base speed. It's not going to be catchable by Gourgeist unless you ran a Choice Scarf set, which would be pretty interesting. But yeah, it's not a good matchup, I would say. It can one-shot T-Tar. It's very difficult to get the Trick or Treat off in front of Staraptor with its flying type move coverage. It's a big threat. Big old threat. And as far as synergies, Staraptor doesn't really want to be taking that Sand Chip damage. It also doesn't have a great matchup into Floette and Sylveon, so doesn't patch anything up for Tyranitar there. So I think we can move on into Sinistcha, which is offensively not a threat at all into our team. It doesn't run any ghost damage, whereas we do. And its grass type damage is super effective on T-Tar. However, T-Tar's sand boost, special defensively, usually takes care of that. And we can usually threaten a one-hit knockout onto Sinistcha with knockoff, unless it's specifically running very bulky defensive sets, or Colbur Berry, which is very strong against knockoff. As an ally, Sinistcha is incredible. However, since we're already committed to, and I should add Gourgeist here as well for reference, We'll just add medium Gorgeist for now. Move it here. Sinistra. So Sinistra has all the same synergies that Gorgeist has types-wise, right? So like Tyranitar wants to switch out when it sees Earthquake or Fighting type damage from Tyranitar or from Garchomp or other fighting types like Sneasler or Staraptor. Sinistra can switch into those types, except for Staraptor not wanting to take a Brave Bird, but it takes a lot of cojones to pull a Brave Bird in front of a Mega Tyranitar. So you can switch Sinistra in and often completely wall any fighting type damage that comes in. Dire Claw's weakened to ghost typing, so you really value ghost typing on this team. And then the grass ability or the grass typing can actually be a help against ground type weaknesses in Tyranitar. So it's a great partner to Tyranitar. Hospitality is often very good. Rage Powder is very good with redirection against Tyranitar, helps Tyranitar live longer, can help Tyranitar set up more. Trick Room can be great speed control for Tyranitar. So a lot of the reasons that Gorgeist is a good Pokemon for Tyranitar, Sinistra is a good Pokemon for Tyranitar, and we really miss that hospitality ability. However, Trick or Treat's a unique ability or unique move only specific to Gorgeist, so that's where we have to stay. Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl is also a fantastic partner for Tyranitar. It's not that big of a threat outside of Parting Shot is potentially threatening for Tyranitar, similar to Intimidate, but it's basically just a slower version of Intimidate, and I think we're happy if we see a Grimmsnarl over an Incineroar on the enemy team. As an ally, I think it's a very strong ally. I think specifically Fake Out support on setup Tyranitar can be very good. Screens can be very good for Tyranitar. Makes it incredibly bulky. If you have a light screen up and Sand Boost, you have okay, so half damage coming in from the sand. So that's 50%. And then you 50% that 50%. So 25%. So you have a quarter damage coming in after light screen. Ooh, that's crazy. Reflect is also very good. Tyranitar already has very high base defense, even without, potential curse defense boosts or running into high defensive nature. Reflect can let you live a lot of the close combats from Sneaslers, from Mega Staraptor, and then Parting Shot can also be very good. Again, not into Staraptor, but Parting Shot can be very good into Sneasler. It can be very good into switching Tyranitar in to get the weather control if you wanted to lead something other than Tyranitar, such as Garchomp into Charizard. You can, Rock Slide with Garchomp, Parting Shot with Prankster Grimmsnarl, bring the sand in before a Venusaur could potentially Sleep Powder you. There's a lot of different options there. So very good partner for Tyranitar. Talonflame. So Talonflame has some anti-synergy. It really doesn't like to take Sand Chip. As far as a threat into the team, it is not. Talonflame can do a lot of damage into our Gorgeist. However, overall, it can't really threaten too much. It's not going to one-shot. Often, it might not even two-shot with its lower physical attack. So I wouldn't say it's a threat. However, there is a specific set that I think is good with Talonflame, and I had great success with on my 12-win streak video with Mega Mawile and Tyranitar, which you should check out for sure. With leftovers, you can undo the Sand Chip and restore your Gale Wings every turn. So often it confuses, I would say, the enemy opponent into thinking they can simply ignore Talonflame and either protect in front of it or attack its partner Pokemon and just let the Sand Chip break its Gale Wings for next turn, and then they'll outspeed it with, Tailwind from Whimsicott or something like that. However, they'll find I just set up Tailwind while they protect, and then I heal the Sand Chip, so I restore my Gale Wings ability after taking the sand chip. And on previous teams where I had Sinistra, you can heal in that residual recoil damage you take from Brave Bird or Flare Blitz on Talonflame with Sinistra and constantly have Gale Wings. It was very good. There's less synergy on this team because we're not running Sinistra, because we have Gorgeist. However, Gorgeist we'll see as we get a little further along has a great synergy with Healing Wish and can potentially provide healing, but it's a big burst healing, which is different than the Hospitality Sinistra provided. So Talonflame doesn't want necessarily to heal from like 1 health left where a Focus Sash user would. It instead kind of wants to just heal chip damage over time to restore that Gale Wings. But it is a potential thing to think about as far as synergies. Okay, Mega Raichu Y. Mega Raichu Y does not want to see a Tyranitar Sand team on the other side. Typically, Sand almost always runs some type of ground damage since it pairs so well with Rock. Rock takes care of Flying type, with Ground type can't hit. So, and it doesn't take any damage from ground or from Sandstorm. And often ground type Pokemon like Garchomp have abilities that synergize specifically well with Sandstorm, which we'll talk about later. Mega Raichu Y as a threat isn't really a threat into our team. Grass Ghost is really good into fake out electric damage. Focus Blast is very scary, so I will include it as a threat. We need to make sure we have a plan for Focus Blast on Raichu Y. Other than that, I don't think it's that threatening. As a partner, I don't see it being a great partner, although Mega Raichu Y is generally a good supportive Mega Evolution with almost the fastest fake out in the game, as well as speed control in the form of guaranteed paralysis from No Guard Zap Cannon. So it's a good Pokemon to consider as an ally for the team. I don't think it's good enough to list in the box since we have a limited amount of space. Mawile, we've already proven, I think, that it's a good ally to Tyranitar in my last video. I'll include it here. However, I'm not really thinking too much about it for this video. However, it does synergize well with Gorgeist's weakness to Dark with Fairy type, and it does like getting trick-or-treated itself. Steel Ghost is incredible typing, right? You get rid of the fighting type of steel, fighting weakness of steel. You already kind of did that with Fairy typing, so it's not like an amazing add, but Steel Fairy Ghost typing is only weak to Ghost, Fire, Ground, which is not bad. And yeah, we're going to scrub all that. We don't want to do Steel, Ghost, Fairy typing. It's a waste. We don't want to use it because I don't think it synergizes that well with Gorgeist. However, we know it synergizes very well with Tyranitar. And I don't want to use my Mega slot on Mawile. I've already done that, and it was a great video. You should check it out. As a threat, Mawile is a pretty major threat into Tyranitar. Under Trick Room, it will almost always outspeed unless they're running a very fast set. Yeah, even with Tyranitar's Mega defense, Mawile, do not underestimate huge power. It'll cut right through all those defenses and one-shot you with the Play Rough, potentially even Iron Head. So yeah, look out for Mawile. Okay, editing Tunasi jumping in here before things get a little too crazy. I go at this for another 2 hours or so where I continue ranking all of the Pokemon in almost all of my tier list for this team. So I'm going to do us both a favor and jump to the end where we get the final 30 Pokemon that are both threats and allies to the T-Tar team into our box and showdown so we can move on to the next step in the process. Okay, now we have created our boxes of threats and allies for our core concept, which is Trick or Treat T-Tar. All right, so that is step 2 finished. We've got our allies and threats. Now let's move into step 3. Now that we have our threats and allies organized, let's start getting a team of our final 6 Pokemon. We start with the Pokemon that are already core to the original niche idea that we had. In our example, that was Tyranitar and Gourgeist, so let's quickly throw them on. So from our allies list, let's quickly grab... Ours is shiny. That's important. And we're just going to copy this even though we don't have anything filled out. Again, these are just kind of placeholders, and I just don't want to go through the effort of typing in their names and putting them in. Okay, and then our standard, we don't have to worry about movesets quite yet. For now, I think we just focus on filling out our top 6. So we know we want these 2. If we jump back to our allies now, we can kind of scroll through and see how we placed each one based on how much synergy it gets, right? So we really like Lopunny, I really like Lopunny, so I think it's worth throwing on the team. At this point where we're only adding, we have our 3rd Pokemon on the team, I basically believe that the earlier you're adding a Pokemon on the team, the less its typing matters as far as synergy with your existing Pokemon. What you're really wanting to add to the team early is stronger synergy with the core mechanic of the team that you're betting on. So for us, our core mechanic is that Tyranitar is strong into Charizard, and Gourgeist with Trick or Treat patches up its fighting weaknesses. Lopunny synergizes extremely well because normal and ghost typing from Trick or Treat is also very strong, and it gives you an alternative mega that if you want to use, you can. It also gives us a unique synergy specifically with Gourgeist, where we can Healing Wish into Ally Switch if we ever need a full heal plus status recovery on whim. So let's start populating moves a little bit here with what we expect, right? So we know we're going to run Rock Slide. We know we want to run Knockoff. It's just really powerful. I see Knockoff. There we go. Rock Slide, Knockoff. And then we don't know what we're going to run in the last move or the 3rd move, but I know I want to run Protect as the last. So we'll leave that open. For Gourgeist, typically we want to run Poltergeist as our damaging move. It's got great synergy with Trick or Treat. We typically want to run Trick Room. And then for the last move, I think we always want to run Ally Switch for these synergies with Lopunny, as well as just synergies with kind of being a pseudo redirection. Item, we don't have to figure that out now, and EVs we'll come back to. Lopunny, Fake Out, Close Combat, and Healing Wish, I think are mandatory on this team. The 4th option is either Encore, which is very good, Protect, which is obviously very good, or you can go through and add any of the other moves that Lopunny gets. Facade is also quite interesting to me, but I'm going to keep it fairly simple and keep it to my standard set with Lopunny and go with Encore. It can be extremely good into enemy Pokemon that protect in front of you. Typically, Pokemon want to protect in front of Fake Out. That punishes it with the fastest Encore user in the game. Okay, from here, we're now thinking about our 4th Pokemon to add. This is where I want to slow down a bit and start looking at some of our type matchups. So typically, I actually really like this Pokemon.help type calculator. If you go to its team tab under the defenses, you can actually add like a full team of 6. So we have Dark and Rock. We have already got a Ghost. Let's add Grass there. And now we have Fighting and Normal in Lopunny. So this can give you kind of an overview. It has different formats. So I like starting with the simple layout, right? So Fighting, we know we have 2 weaknesses, one of which we know to be 4 times weak, and we can see that if we do the complex. One of them is just standard against Lopunny, and 1 immunity in the Ghost and Grass. We know that we actually don't really care that we have fighting weaknesses because we have Trick or Treat, which is one of the mechanics of our strategy. So we want to look at other, and I think simple is the easiest way to describe this. We want to look at other damages or damage types that we don't have enough resist into to kind of balance out. So right now we have 2 Fairy weaks. That's what stands out the most to me. We also have 1 Flying weakness, and we have 1 Ice weakness, and 1 Steel weakness. So if we go over to our offense in this little calculator and we put in Fairy, we can see that we want a Poison, Steel, or Fire. If we go back and we see what other damage types we're weak to, so we could add Ice, we could add Steel, and we could add flying, right? Flying, steel, and ice. We are still good against pretty much any steel type. But what I love about this calculator is it can actually show you specifically which Pokemon resist every one, right? So it tells us, if we go back to here, steel generally resists everything, such as fairy, ice, steel, and flying. But we're also going to see some Pokemon that aren't steel type, but just have natural typings to resist it, such as electric and fire from Rotom. This is really interesting, and I think it's always worth going through this kind of stuff to get an idea of like, oh, maybe there's a specific Pokemon I didn't think of that has amazing type synergies, such as Rotom, like electric fire with ground immunity, that maybe we didn't include in our allies list because it didn't make the top 30 based off of synergy. So just something to think about when you're doing this kind of calculation. You want to look at what does the team want defensively, which seems to be a strong steel type. And then also you want to look at what the team wants offensively. So, or Rotom. Rotom's another defensive pick. Next up, let's look at offensive. We can do knockoff damage. We can do rock slide damage. We know we can do close combat damage. And we can also do ghost damage with Poltergeist. So looking at this is already a pretty decent offensive mix. We don't have any Pokemon that resist all of these damage types, which is decent. And then all that's left is really looking at what we deal 1 times damage to and start looking at statistically what can we add to the team that best helps us hit the majority of the neutral damage resistors left. So looking at this, we see already electric and poison, which means ground's going to be a decent option. We have flying, which hits grass, and fighting, and is immune to ground, which is defensively good. So you can start clicking some of these and seeing, okay, so that jumps us up to 74.1% weak. Ground hits us to 72.4%. So technically ground only removes 2 types from this, but it has more Pokemon in the actual Pokedex that it is better into. So ground is technically a little bit better than flying. If we keep playing around with this, we can look at, poison, that's a decent bug, grass, water, fire, steel, electric, psychic. Psychic does very good. It's actually almost to ground. Ice is actually better coverage than ground. If we looked at ground, it was 72.4, ice is 74.5. So that's really good to know. And then we have dragon type and fairy type. Fairy type is also quite decent. So if we go, this is where typically I go back to our allies here, take a look and say, okay, offensively, we want ice type, or psychic or ground. Defensively, we want steel. So do we see any ice or ground or steel types? Immediately, Excadrill is screaming out to me as a potential option. Is Excadrill a good option here? Does it have good synergy with the team? So right now, right next to Excadrill, we have Kingambit. Kingambit, I'm really leaning more into than Excadrill. I've done a lot of Excadrill before, and you're going to run it with a Focus Sash, and you pretty much die to 2 hits no matter whether it's super effective or not. Whereas Kingambit really benefits a lot more from getting the ghost typing, meaning it's removing its 4 times weakness. It has the steel typing, so we can run Iron Head to still hit fairy types if we want to. And it's slow, which means under Trick Room, which we could choose to run on our Gorgeist, we could run a Trick Room mode where Gorgeist moves before Kingambit, sets up Trick or Treat, so Kingambit can then hit it with a Kowtow Cleave, probably one-shotting most things. So I'm actually leaning towards Kingambit more as a steel type, even though Excadrill does give us better offensive coverage with ground. I really like Kingambit here with Dark and Steel. So I think Kingambit earned, in my mind, its spot as the 4th Pokemon on the team. So let's put in King Gambit here. Let's populate really quickly its moves. It's maybe not going to be as easy as I would think. I'm leaning towards I think we always want Sucker, right? And now we definitely want Kowtow and we definitely want Ironhead, but I could see us dropping either one of those. And then do we want Swords Dance, or do we want Protect, or do we want Low Kick? So the case for Swords Dance is that we're already going to be running Lopunny and Gourgeist, which cover us from enemy Fake Out. It also covers us potentially from enemy Dark type damage, which normally Pokemon or enemies are going to use into us. I could see this working out, so let's keep this now as a template. So now let's come back here. Let's go back to our team. We've made the decision to add King Gambit with Steel and Dark. Let's take a look at our weaknesses. Fighting, again, we're very aware. We're very fighting weak on this team. I don't typically like going above 2 type weaknesses in a team. I think it starts to get unbalanced. But because this team is specifically built around Trick or Treat, I think it's worth it. Okay, so now we have a ground weakness, we have a fire weakness, and we still have double fairy weakness. Even though we added King Gambit, it didn't actually take care of our fairy problem so much, although we are going to be running Ironhead, so things to think about. Now we can run over here. We can run back with fairy, fire, and ground, I believe. And let's look at what resists those. So now we get into fire and flying types. Specifically, Talonflame is very interesting to me. We talked about Talonflame when we were going through our allies list, and it did make the list. I've run Talonflame before on Tyranitar teams, and I think it can be very good. So I'm willing to consider adding it here because it has synergy, because it has typing benefits. Talonflame. And also the speed control. We also have Shiny Talonflame. Here, I think we have to run Leftovers, as mentioned previously. And then I would run something like Brave Bird. Or maybe we don't run Brave Bird. I think we have to run Brave Bird just because it does so much more damage than Dual Wing Beat, and we don't have Life Orb or Sharp Beak boosting damage on this set. We also want Flare Blitz. In case we do have Enemy Sun, Flare Blitz can hit very hard. And then finally, we want Tailwind, and I think we want Protect on this one with... Sorry, I didn't mean to click the guest spread button. We do want Protect with Leftovers. And then speed-wise, we want to run this... Sorry, I know I want specifically 160 healing. And then I think we want 190. So at this speed, we always outspeed every Sneasler. We always outspeed every Whimsicott. And we still maximize our damage while maximizing Leftovers recovery. So I think this is the best we can do. And I like Talonflame. It gives us fire type damage. If we go back and we type in Rock, Dark, Ghost, we have... Fighting. You can select normal, but it never does anything here because normal is not super effective on anything. But sure, we have Fake Out damage. And we go back to the team builder, and we have Gambit with steel damage. And now adding fire and flying, we are covering a lot. All that we have left is like poison, ground, water, electric, and dragon. This is screaming to me that we want ground type. This gets rid of 3 of those 5 remaining type weaknesses. Also, we could consider ice. That's 84.4 versus 87.6. Other things we could consider here looks like grass could be pretty good. 88.7. Wow, that's a huge jump. Okay, so we really want grass damage. Do we really want ghost damage? Ghost damage does literally nothing for us offensively. So now we could go back here and consider whether or not this should be a grass type move. There's Grass Knot, but I think we want physical. So we could go Power Whip, which is slightly less accurate than Poltergeist, but hits a little harder. It doesn't have the condition and has more PP. I think we try Power Whip. So now that we have Power Whip, I keep clicking the wrong button. Now that we have Power Whip, we move this, we have Grass. All that's left is Ground, right? We have Ground and we are hitting pretty much everything. So now let's go back to the team builder. And it's important to note, once we start getting into these final slots, it starts really getting harder to pick the perfect Pokemon. Because really there's decision points. Each Pokemon here is a decision point. We could have chosen not to go with Lopunny back here and gone with Kangaskhan. We could have chosen not to gone with King Gambit here and gone with Excadrill. Those different choices really influence the type kind of matchups you want to bring in the back. And then the other thing that's really important to do with your 16 Pokemon is to go back and look at your threats, right? And make sure you have a good game plan into all of these threats. So the first ones are Blaziken, Lopunny, Megastar Raptor, and Sneasler, and Gallade. And those are all our fighting type threats, right? I'm kind of grouping those together because they all match. We have Gorgeist. We have Ally Switch into that. We have Trick or Treat into that. We have Talonflame, Gale Wings, Brave Bird into that. And we also have Fake Out to potentially suppress any of those while we get set up. So overall, I'm pretty happy with our matchup into some of those biggest threats. And I think we've done a good job targeting those threats with Gorgeist, Trick or Treat specifically. If we go past that, let's start looking at Excadrill. I really like Lopunny's fighting type damage into Excadrill. I really like Flare Blitz from Gale Wings. First off, you can Brave Bird just to break Sash, and also Flare Blitz from Talonflame. Gorgeist also has a good matchup into Excadrill with now Grass type moves, being able to hit it for neutral damage. Let's look at Kangaskhan. We've got a great matchup into Kangaskhan with Lopunny. Also, Gorgeist helps a lot with that. We're looking at Floette. Floette's potentially still a risky matchup, and I could see justification for potentially using the 6th slot to help patch up that matchup if we are still scared about it. We do have Talonflame, which resists fairy type damage. We do have King Gambit with Iron Head, which does super effective damage into fairy. However, we don't really have anything that's going to be able to just sit in front of Floette or Sylveon. So that's something to consider. We could either do a poison or a steel type there, or maybe reconsider our fire choice. Kangaskhan, Megas, no real difference to standard. Bascu Legion. Okay, so Bascu Legion, we have King Gambit, which is one of the best options, or the best answers in the game into it. We have Scrappy Fake Out, which I really like, and we have Tyranitar knockoff. So overall, we are weak a little bit to Ghost adaptability boosted Last Respects, but we don't have to be weak to that if we just choose not to Trick or Treat ourselves. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at my allies and not my threats. Sorry, going through the threats, we talked about Excadrill, Garchomp. Let's talk about Garchomp. We do have Talonflame. Talonflame can burn Tyranitar if we chose to run Will-O-Wisp, which I don't hate. However, overall, it does seem like we're a little bit Garchomp weak. Now that we have the Grass-type move, it's okay. We have a decent matchup with our Gorgeist. However, I don't like King Gambit into Garchomp, so we could consider using our 6th slot to shore up our Garchomp weakness. I also wouldn't mind using our 6th slot to shore up the Floette weakness, as previously mentioned. Bascu Legion we already talked about, and Swampert. Swampert I don't hate. Right now we have Weather Control with Tyranitar. We have Grass type damage on our Gorgeist, which could probably one-shot our Swampert friend there. I'm not too worried about it. We can even up the speeds if we want to with Tailwind, and we do have the Tail Room speed control, which is very strong. Primarina. Now that we have Grass move again, I feel a little bit better about leading Gorgeist into Primarina. We have Iron type damage in King Gambit if we need it. Overall, though, I think we will rely on Gorgeist for our Primarina matchup. Same goes for Blastoise. Blastoise does have Dark type damage, so we need to be careful with our Ghost type stuff. However, I'm not too worried about it. We do have Aerodactyl, I think fairly covered. We have Kingambit, which Aerodactyl can't do anything into, and Tyranitar. Sylveon, similar to Floette, I think we need to shore up that matchup. And Garchomp, same goes for Gardevoir. Incineroar, we have Kingambit, and we have Lopunny. Lopunny is a little weak to Incineroar Intimidate at the beginning of the game, but overall I think it's okay if we need to switch it out. And we do have Defiant to punish it. Pelipper, and kind of rain teams in general, I do think we could have stronger weather control. Something to think about there is potentially some kind of like priority parting shot like Grimmsnarl. I don't know, that's kind of tough. Okay, Raichu, we have a faster fake out. We don't really have any, well, we do have Talonflame as a weakness. Focus Blast is still a concern, but we have a way to play around it with Gorgeist, Ally Switch, and Trick or Treat. Mawile, we do have Talonflame, which is helpful. We do have Close Combat from Lopunny, which can be helpful. But overall, Mawile is still a little bit scary. I think if we solve our Garchomp problem and our Floette problem, we might be solving our Mawile problem. Annihilate, we actually can hard wall with our shenanigans with Trick or Treat. As mentioned, normal and ghost type fully walls Annihilate, as well as Kingambit or Tyranitar with ghost type can kind of wall out Annihilate. All he's got is Rage Punch, which can do damage over time, but it's not going to be anything super threatening. Goldengo and Aegislash we'll talk about at the same time. We always have Flare Blitz from Talonflame, but realistically, Knockoff and Sucker Punch Kowtow Cleave can do wonders into this matchup. We also have Lopunny, which can close combat. I think we've very much solved our weakness against those ones. Como-O, potentially same Garchomp problem. However, I do think flying type damage on Talonflame is very good. And Lopunny can be good with Fake Out and kind of delaying. But yeah, it's still a potential threat. And then Enemy, Mega, Gyarados, I feel good with Lopunny. So kind of summarizing all of that, I think Garchomp, Floette, Sylveon, Mawile, and Como-O were the ones that we think we could really afford to shore up a matchup on. Overall, looking at our Pokemon team, I think we have enough support. We have a lot of support speed-wise with Trick Room and Gale Wings. We have a lot of support defensively with Healing Wish, Fake Out, as well as Trick or Treat. So I do think we want to add a offensive threat as our final Pokemon. And again, we want an offensive threat into Garchomp, Floette, Sylveon, Mawile, and Como-O. And I think the best way for us to try to figure that out is just to build that team, right? If we have all those Pokemon, what are they scared of? So we have Floette. We could do just pure Fairy. We can do Garchomp, which is Dragon and Ground. We can do, who else did we say? Mawile, Como-O. Let's do Fairy, Steel, Como-O. Let's do Fighting and Dragon. And let's see. Okay, so a lot of Fairy weaknesses, a lot of Dragon weaknesses, a lot of Ice weaknesses. So that means that's what we want to be bringing in our final slot offensively is Ice, Steel potentially, Dragon, and Fairy. I kind of like Steel, except it doesn't help us against Garchomp unless it's a Levitate or Flying type. They do have a Ground weakness, and they do have Fire. Fire is an option as well. And also, okay, now shout out, we don't have to run Encore here. We can do Triple Axle. And all of a sudden, our Garchomp matchup gets a lot better. Our Dragonite matchup gets a lot better. Our Sceptile matchup gets a lot better. Not that anybody's thinking about that. Yeah, this is really interesting to me. Also, let's look at the speed, because I think I don't really care about outspeeding anything than max speed Sneasler, right? Or what's at the 130? Let's do this. At the 130 tier... I don't care about Delphox. Okay. Going before Gengar, going before Raichu, and Aerodactyl, Jolteon. Do I want to outspeed Raichu? We probably do want to outspeed Raichu. So base 130, so we can go back to this. Basically, we go 201. Aerodactyl, Pure Max Speed. It's 182. 200. So 201 is what we want. So that's perfect. And that lets us do more here. So we always outspeed Aerodactyl. We always outspeed Raichu. That seems important. Okay. Let's go back now. We're still working on our 6th Mon, right? I don't think I want to add another Steel type to the team, to be honest. I want something that can take care of Garchomp, which I think we've just gotten with Triple Axle Lopunny. And we want an offensive Pokemon here. So let's go back. Let's get rid of all this. Let's rebuild our team. So we're one overall. We still have a Fairy. We have a Water weakness. We have a Ground weakness. No, we don't. We don't. Fairy and Water. Fairy and Water. So let's see what resists Fairy and Water. Grass Poison. Water Poison. Water Poison. Water Steel. Water Poison. Grass Steel. Okay, looking at this, Venusaur is interesting. Not interesting enough, probably. What really caught my eye here was either Empoleon or Toxapex. Empoleon's another Steel type. So let's just... I mean, we have all physical attackers right now. So I don't hate having a special type attacker. I also don't hate Rotom here. It will also help us shore up... Okay, so does Rotom help us specifically against Floette? Rotom Fire could... Arcanine could. What if we don't go Talonflame, though? What if we just went like Ceruledge and Melodic or something? It's a pretty classic pairing. It gives us a Firewater Grass Core with Gourgeist. But there's not a lot of synergy there otherwise. I kind of do like Melodic here. I don't love it. Gets sand chipped. I mean, Empoleon's making a lot of sense. I didn't really see Empoleon coming here. But I mean, like, being able to either Muddy Water... Oh, he doesn't get Muddy Water. What do you get? I know you get Flash Cannon. Could get Steel Beam. Could get real interesting with Steel Beam. It's Wave Crash. But its special attack is higher. Hydro Pump. Gets Ice Beam. Really wanted a ground-type attacker, though, right? Offensively. We go back to this. We put in all our stuff. Fire, Flying, Fighting, Normal, Steel. And we have Grass. We really want Ground offensively, Steel defensively, or Water, or Grass, Steel, Poison even. Defensively, we want Empoleon. Offensively, we want Garchomp. Garchomp, Garchomp. Okay, if we're looking at Garchomp, this is tough stuff. Specifically good into Floette and Garchomp. What is specifically good into Floette and Garchomp? And that's what our 6th Pokemon should be. An Ice Steel type. Ice Poison. No, we don't want Poison or Steel. Unless it's Flying. Okay, I'm really thinking Rotom Heat somehow. Rotom Wash. I like Rotom Wash. Let's look what it does, right? I think this will do good things for us. Let's do electric and water, and let's ignore that, and let's give it levitate. And bing, bang, boom. We've shored up our water weakness. Fire looks good. Ground looks great. Flying looks great. Fairy looks a little sus. I am questioning Talonflame here. I'm not sure if Talonflame's the right play here. Okay, personally, I'm going to go back. We're going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of this. I think Ceruledge and Milotic have a ton of synergy here. I think it's a stable core with Grass type. Milotic can provide healing for the team. Competitive. I do have a shiny one. I do have a shiny one of these two. And then Colbur Berry. Okay. So now let's look at this. So we got rid of Talonflame. It had some anti-synergies, required the leftovers. I think Cerulege is a better mon overall. It's a drain tank, so we don't care too much about the sand chip. It also helps with the Charizard matchup. And then Milotic and Cerulege is a very good setup core with fake out support, such as from Lopunny with Healing Wish shenanigans. Okay, so this is not electric. Just get rid of this guy. Let's just do Ghost and Fire. You have Flash Fire. That one matters. And then lastly, we have Water. So we have one Fairy Resist. So yeah, I think this 6 is good enough to give a shot. We've gone through step 3 of the process and come up with our 6 that we want to give a shot. Well, let's quickly go through and fill out all the details of the team before going into step 4, which is jumping into some games. So we've already figured out Tyranitar, I would say mostly, for its 4th move slot. With this kind of team where we have fighting type damage and we have ice type coverage for Garchomp, I actually think we can afford to set up with Tyranitar. I actually want to slow Tyranitar down with Curse. I actually think it's kind of funny that we can run Curse and give ourselves the Ghost ability to potentially actually curse a Pokemon with like damage, version of Curse. Overall, though, I want to go very bulky. I want to go 204 here. Oh, I don't want to... HP, I usually go 204 for Hospitality Healing. I don't know. I still want it at this number because I'm going to be running Life Dew on Melodic, which essentially does the same thing as Hospitality, but the whole reason is I want this to be divisible by 4. Since you heal 25%, you want it to be divisible by 4 to get your maximum efficiency with your HP points. I want our Mega Tyranitar to be thick, okay? It's going to be cursing it up. Yeah. Okay, attack I actually want to do last. Let's think about speed here. We can either go min speed or we can go... I think we go min speed. I don't think we ever go non-min speed. And I think we always go max attack, which gives us a brave nature. Decision time. We're at a branch point with our set where we could decide to go very setup oriented and bulky, where we don't invest in attack any more than we already have, and we instead invest in defense, special defense, etc. Alternatively, we could go more offensive in our already bulky set and go max attack with the understanding that when we curse, we're going to be already boosting that attack, so we will need less setup, but we'll be a little bit more fragile in trade as the trade-off. I want the attack, personally. I think curse can be a difficult move to get off a lot of the times, it feels like, so I don't want to be over-reliant on it, so I'm happy to just max this out. And then I want to put the rest, I think I'll probably do this. Since we are going to be boosting our attack, having an odd number is slightly less efficient than having an even number to multiply by 1.5, and then an even number in special defense to also get multiplied by 1.5 with our sand special defense boost. So this is the set I would run for Tyranitar. For Gourgeist, this is actually really important here. There's different Gourgeist forms, and each one does a different thing. So for our team, since we're going cursed, I think I want the biggest, slowest Gourgeist possible. This means it has the most HP and the lowest speed possible. So let's do that one. And its ability, I want Frisk, especially on the ladder. Frisk is an amazing ability. We'll come back to item here, I think either after we do moves and AVs or at the end. But for moves, we decided we did want Power Whip. For the coverage, grass coverage seems very good. And then we want Trick Room, Trick or Treat, and then lastly, Ally Switch. Okay, so naturally we actually have quite a bit of attack, but pretty low speed here. So let's think about how we want our speed to line up with Tyranitar as our main core. So there's two options. We can either have our Gourgeist be faster than Tyranitar, which at 74 speed, we would have to add a little bit of speed into Gourgeist here. And if it's faster, that means outside of Trick Room, Gourgeist can set up a Trick or Treat before Tyranitar can move. However, in Trick Room, Gourgeist would actually be the opposite, where it would be setting up trick or treat after Tyranitar's already attacked. So you don't get the benefit of the super effective attack from trick or treat with like a knockoff from Tyranitar. However, it complicates things because we're running Curse on Tyranitar. So I think overall, we're going to be slowing ourselves down. And after one single Curse, we're already going to be slower than Gorgeist here. That's making me lean towards maybe not running mid-speed. Let's see if we run mid-speed and maybe like max special defense. We'll see if that makes sense. So now we're at 66. Tyranitar at 81 speed after a single Curse will be at, so it's 54. So even at min speed, we never outspeed under Trick Room Torkoal after 2 Curses. So I don't think there's actually a reason to run mid speed here, and I kind of like now running min special attack, going 91 speed. And this is the question you have to ask yourself, because you don't have to Curse here, right? You can also go Dragon Dance and you can go fast. And I kind of like this idea, but I really like Curse. I really like Curse. I like the bulky Tyranitar set. So we're going to stick with Curse. And then we're also just going to do this, where we're going to minimize our special attack. So now we're at 74 speed here, 91 speed here. So Gorgeist under Trick Room will outspeed Tyranitar unless Tyranitar has had 1 Curse up, right? So let's just double check. So I will underspeed Tyranitar in Trick Room after 1 Curse. And that's important to know. And I don't think there's necessarily a positive or negative associated with that, but it means that on turn 1, if I think Tyranitar's faster than maybe like a Farigiraf setting up Trick Room or something like that, I can then trick or treat that Farigiraf and then knock it off. It's now got a 4 times weakness to knock off, and I don't think it's surviving that. Okay, I like that a lot. As far as EVs, we definitely want to be defensive here. I kind of like immediately this is what my brain goes to. But we could go a defensive set. When we think about Ghost and Grass, we are weak to Dark type and Ghost type, so it's a mix of both special and physical attacker kind of types. Fire being mostly physical, but with Charizard also special, and then Ghost can be Shadow Ball or physical with Poltergeist. Eventually, what you want to do as you build your teams here is I'm fine giving it in this step just a rough EV, and then as you play games, you'll start seeing some moves that you're like, oh, I really need to outspeed that, or oh, I really need to live through that. That's how I treat EVs, is you start it off with kind of base milestones, and then you do your calcs later. For item, this is interessante. We could either go Seed Berry for Basculegion. We could go... We might one-shot Basculegion in turn. So that would be like a calc that we could do, is how can we survive Basculegion and one-shot it in return. I think Cassiberry probably gets us there, so let's run Cassiberry for now, and we can revisit it in the future if we want. King Gambit, I'm really liking the idea of Black Glasses, or potentially Life Orb. I don't think we're having a different Life Orb user on the team. You can also go Okaberry. And actually, I kind of like Okaberry here. We talked about Okaberry so much when we were doing our threats. King Gambit. Let's do Black Glasses if we're going to do Okaberry there. And I like that we're not doing Life Orb, even though it's definitely a consideration. I don't really want to be losing health every turn. Again, we want this to be 204. Attack. We probably want max attack here. And then we could go min speed, but we're already slower than Gorgeist. I actually kind of like doing like 3 speed here. So max speed would outspeed. I don't want that, so I like 3 speed here. Oh, Spadef. We really want Spadef. Maybe we want Spadef more than we want health here. We could do something like this. I don't hate that. And then let's take 1 off this, put it here. Be a multiple of 4. And Quick and Dirty, I like these EVs. Saraledge, typical moveset. So here's another question. We always run Bitterblade. Shadow Sneak? Shadow Sneak. Or we can run Poltergeist there if we believe we have good speed control. Bitterblade, Shadow Sneak. Swords Dance. And Protect. Typically you run something like this. If you're running Shadow Sneak because you don't care about speed, you go like this. Minus here, and then you give your defense a little boost. 182, I believe. Not a multiple of 4. So I think 182 is. Okay, quick and dirty stats. That's how I would do Ceruledge. Milotic, give the leftovers. Gave you the Colberberry, perfect. And then this is our typical either Muddy Water. Sometimes I like Hydro Pump in that slot. Coil, Hypnosis. And then here I actually like Life Dew. And we want to go to 192. Coil, we're going to be getting a defense boost, so we want an even number. Speed. Speed we need to start thinking about as a whole for our team. Basically, what I'm thinking is I want to have all of my Pokemon very close together as a mid-speed. Obviously, Kingambit can be slow. Gorgeist is slow. Tyranitar is slow. Ceruledge and Milotic they could be slow if I wanted. They're not really a big benefit to running them slow, except for that they would be moving around the same time frame as Tyranitar, Gorgeist, and Kingambit, which doesn't matter, right? Because Ceruledge is already... We're doing Shadow Sneak. We could do Poltergeist, but I think Shadow Sneak is just better generally. And we don't really care where Milotic is Muddy Watering. Let's finish EVing you here. What I have seen with Milotic is people just doing this. You do like main attack, and then you just get crazy special defense, kind of maximize your healing, and then the rest just goes into special attack. I don't know why, that just pleases me more. So Ceruledge and Milotic are moving very close together. Kingambit, Tyranitar... Sorry, Tyranitar is kind of in this... Do I want to bump Tyranitar up in speed? Again, I'm going to leave it as is for now. Eventually, we're going to calc out some speed tiers and potentially look at, like, does Tyranitar really want to run min speed? There's an argument for why you would, for weather control purposes. Like, if there was a min speed Pelipper, potentially could underspeed Tyranitar here. For that reason, I actually am going to min speed this guy. So that does it for step 3. I think we have a good 6 built out here. We have items, I believe, on all of them. We have moves built out. We have EVs, all as a starting point for us to go into step 4. Okay, here we go. So we've imported our team into the game. We've had to make a few little changes, mostly because... Oh, Gorgeist. It is so hard for me to get a super variety Gorgeist. I have Pokemon Legends ZA. I didn't realize Gorgeist had to be traded, and I don't have any friends to trade Pokemon with. I'm a 33-year-old man. I don't know people that play children's games still. So anyway, the only choice I have is Pokemon ZA, and then you have to find this hyperspace wormhole, and I spent all this time finding the hyperspace wormhole because the normal Gorgeist are all locked into medium, and I find a wormhole, and I finally farm out like 8 Gorgeist, and they're all medium. And I already had mediums. So we're just making medium work. Long story short, we're making the medium Gorgeist work. Some of the speed tiers are now different. Long story short, nothing major changed. Again, we're in step 4 here, where we're now just battle testing preliminarily. So none of these EV spreads or anything I expect to keep permanently. So let's jump into the games and see how the team performs, see if we can kind of figure out some leads, some good combinations. Oh my god, it's Braum. Okay, an interesting team here. On the one hand, I kind of want to go with Tyranitar or Kingambit, but I see the Annihilate there, and I'm thinking, I don't hate Lopunny, except for the Psychic type damage. So what are they going for here? Are they trying to Trick Room with Slowbro? They're trying to go fast with Slowbro. Do we even bring Lopunny, or do we just lead Gorgeist here? I kind of don't hate just leading Gorgeist. There's a ledge in the back. And do we do Milotic? Hypnosis could be disruptive, and it's healing. Other option is Lopunny or King Gambit. Okay, so let's try this. This is the Tyranitar Gorgeist lead. Alakazam and Slowbro. Twisted Spoon, Focus Sash. Well, that's very good to know. I can't help but feel like I'm about to... something bad's about to happen to me. I'm either about to get Focus Blasted... or Expanding Force. Either way, I'm just going to reflexively do an ally switch because I'm scared. Yeah, this is our shiny Gorgeist because it's medium. Yeah, it's the only type I can get is apparently medium stupid Gorgeist. Okay, so now we surprise him. Surprise! I was over there, now I'm over here. Oh. Interesting. Okay. Well, you will die for your transgressions. And we break Sash on... What is Slowbro based off of? Is it like a sloth? Is it flesh sloth turtle? Is it a turtle? I feel like it's turtle. And we're faster. Even after paralysis, we're faster. That is a slow bro. But he's probably got the Quick Claw. If I know my slow bros. In comes the Dragonite. It's triple axle. Could have been pretty good here. Excusez-moi. Are they... I think we can go ahead and Mega Evolve. It's probably a misplay not to already. I think I want to Curse. Right? Because they're scared. They got to be scared. Okay. Maybe we just Protect. No, I ain't scared. Excuse me. Okay. Let's see if they low kick. Steelix. Right. Steelix is a little problematic for us, isn't it? Why? Okay, this is very good for us. Oh god, it's Fly. Oh my god, I feel so bad. I'm try-harding this like poor guy. Pokeball tier. Yeah, we're definitely gonna ally switch. I'm just gonna Curse again. Oh, no, that's not good. That's a slow Tyranitar. Or, Steelix. Does this kill? No. Okay, we've broken multi-scale. I think I'm just gonna give this man trick or treat and see how that goes for us. Are we slower though? We should be. We're half speed on Gorgeist and we're half speed on Tyranitar. Gorgeist was originally faster, wasn't it? I think I misplayed. Oh, I did misplay. Oh, it would have killed. Okay, so we trick or treat for next turn. We're so smart. We also forgot to put on Power Whip here. Oh! Bollocks. Oh, we're still alive. What else can I use Gorgeist here for? Maybe we just feel like Saraledge and... I think knockoff kills. Super effective now, even though he doesn't have anything to knock off. We get the KO. They go for fly again. They're really flying high. I don't know if we need the Sandstorm. It's actually maybe beneficial that we don't have it. The Slowbro is slow. We know that about this bro. We also know it has the Focus Sash on. This seems like a fine play. My other options were swap into Milotic, either by sacrificing Gorgeist, but we still have the boosts in place on Tyranitar. So I think a Rock Slide should one-shot Dragonite, and then with... Excuse me, with a Shadow Sneak damage onto Slowbro, we might get the Slowbro knockout as well. Just depends who's faster under Trick Room, Slowbro or me on Tyranitar. A little chip there. It'll be close. We probably don't kill. You're slower. Oh, we do kill. Slowbro's tanky, but it's not that tanky. Okay. It's going to be pretty hard to come back from that, and I didn't realize that was their last two Pokemon, so it's going to be literally impossible to come back from that. Low kicks. With the Tyranitar team, with Raichu, and... Don't have any ground type damage. I'm beginning to regret that. We also don't have any psychic damage, but we have water type damage for a lot of this team. I think if we can take care of Raichu, we're probably okay. The Beedrill is a little scary. I do think this is a low punny game. And they don't have any anti-priority, so it's probably like a low punny King Gambit game. And then we have healing in the back with Milotic, which gives us a chance into Tyranitar, rock type guys. And then we have Gorgeist for the shenanigans. Okay, so we have the faster fake out. They have Focus Blast, though. They can only fake out one of us. Beedrill's actually extremely fast, right? We did it. Alrighty, right. Now we have our Charizard team here. That makes me want to go Ceruledge. We have Chomp problems. Kind of like this. Maybe we just start setting up T-Tar. I still like Ceruledge quite a bit here. Let's give this a whirl. I think we can heal with the Healing Wish stuff. We're either Mega-ing Tyranitar. I don't see any reason not to Mega Tyranitar this game. Excuse me. If I'm them, Rigorath with Charizard looks okay, potentially. I don't know, maybe Garchomp Charizard. Rigorath Gambit. Lopunny looking a little insanely good here. Oh man, this is tough. What if they just protect? I kind of like just getting the damage off here. If they have low kick, that hurts. Hurts a lot. And they have Charizard, that could hurt a lot too. You're burning our Mega here. The Sash, isn't it? Okay. That's brutal, and it's faster because it's Sash. I should have known. This team is going around. And there's Sunny Dang. Okay, well, we're in trouble now. We have Ceruledge, so we're gonna try to set up Ceruledge here. Shoot, why don't we just Encore here? Bulk up. Okay, Lopunny coming in clutch here. And we can bulk up again. And catch another Encore into Gambit. We're at +2. He'll Sucker Punch me. He'll break my Colbur. I heal back to full on Farigiraf. We are Gorgeist in. Oh, who am I healing on? Chomp, okay. Okay, still a lot of damage. So we could Trick Room. I kind of like Ally Switch here. Into a Bitter Blade. case they sucker punch us. Now what are you, Earthquake? They heal a little bit. So now it's Furgraf Charizard. Sylveon, you didn't bring Charizard? That's insane. Well, don't mind if I do. Okay. I can't even hurt the Furgraf. Jeez, they got back. That's a real team. For sure. This guy's playing it out. God bless him. Just kidding. Thank you. Okay. GG's, well played. Okay, we do have Rain, our Chaladon, with our worst freaking nightmare over there. Boy, oh boy. We are running Protect or we're not. We're not running Protect. So we could Ally Switch. Also just Trick Room. How good is this? This seems real good. Fake Out seems real bad though. Oh, this is tough stuff. I don't know about this. I almost thought about not bringing any megas. That seemed really bad. We could potentially have double Ghost against their fighting type here. Okay. Problem is we're gonna get... I think this is a good ally switch turn. I was really computing there. It was very quiet because I was really thinking. I was thinking about what I was going to do, and I'm going to ally switch. I'm going to get in their head, right? The first close combat always goes straight into King Gambit. The Tailwind, okay, so they're nice and fast. Good for them, good for them. This is where I kind of wish I would feel better with a Protect. Be honest with you. I mean, we could do it again, or we could Trick Room. I kind of like the Trick Room option. Do we ever survive this on King Gambit? I don't think we do. We can Iron Head Whims, though. They're gonna totally overread, right? They don't even know Ally Switch doesn't work twice in a row. Whimsicott's gone, okay. Incineroar's in. Wow, we have a really buff King Gambit. It's +4. Oh, they got it right! No! Oh, that's game losing. That's really bad. I don't think there's any coming back from that. Do we have Ceruledge? No, we didn't bring Ceruledge. We'd never make a mistake like that. Well, the good news is we can trick-or-treat our River Goddess. Oh, no, gosh. Do not do that one. Out of your mind? Let's hit him with the coil. You stop setting up one of my Pokemon. You can't stop something just to die, you know? Oh, snappity, snappity, snap. Yeah, that makes sense. Now I'm a ghost type. Never faking me out again. Let's see how this goes. We have a lot of special defense. We have a lot of health. It's a leftover Cine. That did nothing. It did something. It did choice. It did good chip. Not bad chip. Did not bad chip. Oh, the Blaze Kick Incineroar. I don't see that a lot. You're just gonna heal the full, aren't you? Oh, that's super effective, lol. That's one burn. I'm faster than Cine. Well, no, I'm not, for sure. Let's get him with the old ally switch. I think if you can do another coil, you do another coil, right? Come on. It still does kind of a lot. Don't burn me. Okay, we're living. Are we speed tying on Gorgeist? I thought I tacked... Oh yeah, the Tailwind. Goodbye, Gorgeist. Gorgeist! Okay, well now we get our scrappy Lopunny in the nick of time. Let's Hypnosis. What's our battle info telling us? Trick Room 1. We are totally hypnosising this guy. And we are faking out this guy. It didn't protect Incineroar. They miss. Ooh, that's huge. I didn't even know that move could miss. Okay, so you're sitting duck, and then you're sitting duck. I'm liking where I'm at here. Let's Hypnosis this guy, and then, I don't know, maybe, close combat this guy. I don't know why I use that accent. Okay, they switch in. Staraptor. Scary stuff, scary stuff. They have Sinistra Protect, so we can definitely Encore that. It's gonna take a little damage. Not a lot. Bulky boy. I don't think I'm faster than Staraptor. Well, we could catch them both here. Like, maybe Sinistra doesn't... I mean, of course it has Rage Powder, but... we can put it to sleep. We could have protected with Low Bunny. Maybe a Brave Bird comes out. This is where Muddy Water would have helped. Yeah, not the one I thought. Okay. We probably targeted right. I don't think we win this. Yeah, they would. So what? In this Incineroar, Whimsicott, attacked. Hold on, we life, dude. But they just catch us with Encore now. I don't know. This is tough. I have double grass type. Like Tailwind here. Yeah. And then Brave Bird or close combat. It probably kills with our double close combat drops. Wow, so I actually could have protected. Could have Hydro Pump off, but. Staraptor. Gosh, is this worth playing out? It might be. Ugh. Good crit. Oh, nice, Sin. Yeah, we can't beat Sinistra. It's a good team. It's a good team. I get it. I get it. Okay. We need to think about that matchup. That was one of the core ones. And we told ourselves Gorgeist would help us there. Right. Okay, Kushiat. Standard Charizard double prankster team with Basculegion. The slop is out. Charizard slop is here to stay. But we're built for Charizard. They don't have any Intimidators. Melodic's not looking that good. Gorgeist doesn't have a grass type move. Might not matter, I guess, here. I don't hate Lopunny. Take out the ghost types. Cerulege. If we get Cerulege set up, I don't know what they do here. Which means we want to heal Cerulege. In the back, I want a Gambit. So we're going Megaloppy. Going big ears. I move around in my chair so much. And when I stand, I'm just constantly moving. Sneasler, Basculegion. So we have the faster of the fake outs. And they can't fake out my Cerulege. But I can fake out their Basculegion. I just kind of like bulk up here. They could close combat my Lopunny, which would suck. But I don't think Lopunny is actually the carry here. Even though it's our Mega, it's not our carry. That's what Mr. Fire Swords is. Schmeck. Oh, did the big damage. You think you're fast? You idiot! Okay, now we're +1. Any reason not to just go +2 here? They could poison me, but poison's... I'm kind of immune to poison with Bitterblade. I'll just heal on it. To the east side. Oh, poor baby. Didn't know. They didn't know. That was a shiny Sableye too. Gold, has gems. I feel bad for this guy. He got that turn right though. Or that play right. He didn't get the turn right, but he got that part right. Except for the fact that we're still bulking up over here. It is wider, so it can be nice and quick. But Cerulege might as well be a brick wall to this Sneasler. I don't hate Gorgeist here for the Trick Room opportunity. Oh, it goes Basculegion. Homie doesn't know, homie doesn't know. We're +2 now, so should be faster than Basculegion, Cerulege. It's the running fast Bask. What did they use? Did they use like liquidation or something weird last time? We faked them out. They switched out, so we don't even know. They haven't used anything. It could have been sashed based on that damage. Sneasler goes. Trick Room comes up. God, we kill here, right? Yeah, based on that fake out damage, this thing's got no defenses. Okay, that's a good one. We get our Trick or Treat, or Trick Room, excuse me. Sneasler doesn't seem like a threat here. We Trick or Treat here. Bitterblade here. Alright, so they go with Mega Floette here. I don't think it's surviving a +2 Bitterblade. I'm certain we're not slower or faster in Trick Room. I think we're moving first in Trick Room with Cerulege. We protect, who cares? Trick or Treat. Pings off, and Bitterblade obliterates. Wow. Didn't expect that. GG's. I was kind of waiting for that. Okay. So that's 4 games now. Let's take a pause here and think about what could have been better. I don't love... I don't love our Megastar Raptor experience. Let's jump back over here. This is allies. I should have been looking at the threats. Yeah, I think Staraptor is the biggest. It's biggest. It's the worst. Its flying typing really makes it difficult. Because, right, so I want a Lopunny lead. And maybe Lopunny is the play with the fake, or with the Encore. Could Encore like a Protect. And fake out. Give it the ghost typing. Okay, I think the team had... I don't think that was the team's problem there. But this, I think, is enough games for step 4 to be completed here. My takeaway is that overall the team seems solid. We definitely need to go back and redo the EVs. But realistically, I think the only thing the team needs is just more play time. And then we can go into step 5 and reevaluate if there's anything we need to refine in the team, if the niche seems like it's worth exploring, or if we need to swap out any different Pokemon. Right now, I could see us putting in, some answers for Megastar Raptor. I think right now that kind of looked like the worst, maybe weak spot of the team. But also with this, I don't want people to come into this and think they need to change their team after every single game. Like if you look at here, right, we went 4 games and we're still not going to make a change to the team because I'm not convinced that the losses that we got were based on the team's weaknesses versus just my misplays or didn't bring the right Pokemon. We actually should have a great matchup into Staraptor because we have a theoretically pure ghost team, so they shouldn't be able to set up with close combat. The only problem is that maybe we go like I don't know. We could think about it. We could go Lopunny. There's some things we can do that are mind gamey, but I think we have like kind of a guaranteed thing we can do with Lopunny, and just making Lopunny normal ghost type with fighting seems really powerful. What did we learn prior 4 games here? We learned that Staraptor is indeed a threat. We bumped it up in our threat box, tracking all our top 30 threats. We realized that we really needed to prioritize getting ghost types going against the Staraptor. And other than that, I would say the team performed pretty well. It's hard to tell against this caliber of opponents. He's using Fly, Dragonite, or non-Mega Steelix. Obviously, it's early days in the season, so as we climb, I expect to see stronger Pokemon come out. I think we got our taste of it with a couple of real teams on Charizard teams, the Staraptor team, and I thought we performed well against the Charizard team. Ceruledge plus Tyranitar kind of felt like a guaranteed win, honestly. Lopunny's felt good. Fast Fake Out beat Raichu a few times. It's beat Sneasler a few times. Encore's been very good. So overall, I'm happy with the team. This is basically step 5 that we're going through right now, is where you reevaluate the team. But at this point, it's an iterative process, right? So step 5, as mentioned before, is look back at the team, figure out if you need refinements, or if you need to scrap the idea, or if you just need to keep getting games under your belt to improve with the team. Right now, I can see that Tyranitar actually doesn't seem that strong. Ceruledge honestly seems like it's kind of filling its niche better than it is filling its own niche. And so maybe we could get away with just King Gambit, but again, the key of the team was that we thought Tyranitar would beat Charizard, so I could also see us trying to drop Ceruledge, go back to Talonflame, maybe get away from Milotic, go to Empoleon. Those were all some original ideas. Also getting some ground type damage onto the team would be nice. Mamoswime's interesting. It's good against Garchomp. But yeah, we have Triple Axel. So I think this was a good showcase of how to team build. At this point, the next steps for this team would have been to continue iterating, but I think this video is already quite long, so I want to cut it here. Thank you for tuning in. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think I could do better, what your own process for team building includes that maybe mine doesn't. I would really like this to be a resource for the community, as mentioned in the introduction, and also a tool to improve on my own. So thank you all for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.